beginner's guide to changing your own oil. This is something every car owner ought to know how to do. Even if you choose never to change the oil in your car, having the option to do it yourself and save a few bucks certainly isn't a bad thing, right? So in order to do an oil change on your average car, truck, or SUV, you're going to need a few tools. Not as many as you would imagine though, right? So as far as tools required, you're going to need a wrench in order to get your drain plug loose. And depending on the model of car, it's one of a few sizes. Most Asian cars, Japanese and Korean cars are going to be a 14 or a 17 millimeter wrench. Most American cars are going to be a 13, a 15, 13 or 15, right? For like Chevrolet, Chrysler, stuff like that, Fords. Okay, and European cars, 17s, 19s, some old Volvos or even 24s. But again, most are going to be in that range. So depending on the model of car you have, you're only looking at one tool to invest in. That's not so bad, right? Some other tools you may want to have, you're certainly going to need to have a very inexpensive drain bucket. And that's to catch the oil in the oil filter when you do your oil change. These are like $3 at Walmart. Not a lot of money invested there. If you want to splurge as far as filling your car back up, go ahead and get yourself a funnel. Make it a little easier. Depending on where the oil fill is located, it may come in quite handy. Okay, one thing that I do on my own cars is I use a little regular old piece of masking tape from a roll of masking tape, and I write the mileage and the date that I replaced the oil. Kind of like the sticker you get at a dealership or at an oil change place that tells you when to come back. Okay. And then you're of course going to need a couple of things to actually do the oil change. You're going to need some oil, right? I get full synthetic oil for the cars I run. This car has 210,000 miles on it. It's my little runabout, a little Toyota Echo, and it's my commuter car. It's a great car, by the way, for what it is. Anyway, you know, I use synthetic oil. You don't have to run synthetic oil. But I choose to. Walmart's brand is SuperTech, I think it's called. It's like 5 quarts for $17 here in North Carolina. For that price, I just get regular synthetic because, you know, at most auto parts stores, regular oil costs more than that. So, and then of course you're going to need a filter. I don't have a particular brand that I get. A lot of times with my cars, I will try to get genuine filters from Toyota or whatnot. In this case, I just got a generic here. And most cars have a washer for the drain plug, right? And a lot of times shops don't use those drain washers, so you'll find that is just on there. But you could get a little seepage coming from your drain plug if you don't replace the washer. So I go ahead and get washers for the cars that I do here at the house. This is a genuine Toyota drain washer, but you can get a copper washer, an aluminum washer, any kind of washer that goes between your drain plug. Probably not a bad idea. So that's it. Wow, crazy, right? A whole lot of parts here. So let's talk about your investment. That's, like I said, $17. My oil filter cost me $3.50. This gasket cost another 60 cents. So let's say $4 and 17. Okay, so we're looking at $21 for this whole mess here. You know, what place, I guess there's a couple places out there that'll do an oil change for $19.99, but that's certainly not going to get you synthetic fluid. And it's, you know, I'm not going to say that they're not doing the job well, but you're going to put a certain amount of care into doing your own work on your own car as opposed to paying me to do it on a car for a stranger. That's just a fact. It's not that I don't care about your car when I'm working on it as a mechanic. It's just that we care more about our own cars than anyone's going to care about our cars for us, right? So that's it. We've got that. Now for your first time investment, let's add another $3 for a drain pan and another $1.50 for that. You're still looking less than $25 for the whole mess, and that's a pretty darn good deal. And then you've got those tools. You'll have them for the rest of your life. So let's get this out of the way, and I'll show you. And this will be the same on 4 cylinders, 6 cylinders, 8 cylinders, American cars, foreign cars. Doesn't matter. It's all roughly the same thing. But I'm going to get this stuff out of the way. We'll move the camera closer in, and I'll show you what we're going to do here on top. Now you'll notice I've got this car raised up. It's not necessary to raise your car up on like 90% of the models out there. You can sneak under there and crawl under. The reason I've raised this one up is that it's easier for me to get the camera under there to show you guys what I'm doing. Okay, so here's the engine on this car, and this is just a very, very small 4-cylinder engine on these cars. This is actually the same motor that's in the Prius. It's in the Echo, the Yaris. It's a very popular engine for Toyota for this era of car. But anyway, for doing your oil change, what you're going to want to do up top here before we crawl into the car is take off your oil cap. You can just lay it on there so nothing falls in there, but just leave it loose. And I also like to pull the dipstick up slightly. And the reason I'm doing that is it allows air to flow down in here so I don't create a vacuum. That'll allow the engine oil to flow out more easily when I take the drain plug loose. And that's the only reason that I do that. Now, it's a good idea while you have your car with the hood open and you're going to change your oil, go ahead and check the rest of your fluids. You've got washer fluid here. You can top that off. Most modern cars have a reservoir for your coolant. You want to check to see how the level is on that, making sure that your engine is cold when you do that. You don't want to get burned. Don't take the radiator cap off either, especially if the engine is hot. Right? You have an air filter under here, and we'll cover checking air filters, cabin filters, spark plugs, stuff like that in future videos. But it would also be a good time to check to make sure that a mouse hasn't made a home in the bottom of your air box during the winter. And you want to look at your brake fluid. It has a minimum and a maximum line. If you notice the fluid is low, it's nearing the minimum line, there's a good chance that you probably are going to need brake pads or brake work very shortly. So those are all things we can check while we're underneath here. And then when you're done with that, we'll crawl up underneath the car here and we'll begin our oil change. And this whole job, start to finish, shouldn't take you more than 20, maybe 30 minutes, okay? Okay, well here we are under the car. And as you can see, it's not too frightening looking. Now again, all cars are slightly different, but on this car, you have your oil filter located up front. Some cars, it'll be located on the side or in the rear. Just gotta poke around until you find that. And then here's our oil pan here. And in this case, the drain plug's on this side. But that's pretty much what we're looking at. And again, don't be too intimidated by all these nuts and bolts and everything. We're only focusing on two things, the drain plug and that oil filter. So once you've located those two, go ahead and get your oil pan situated where you need to be. Right? Grab your oil filter and your wrench, and we're ready to begin. And there's my drain plug right there. Take your 14 millimeter, in this case 14, and you can break it loose. And of course, when you take this thing all the way off, oil is going to come pouring out. You'll probably get a little on you. Now you'll notice I'm wearing gloves. Certainly it's not necessary to wear gloves, but I work on cars for a living, and oil is cancer causing, just like pretty much every chemical I work on or work with. So it's a good idea to wear gloves or at least wash your hands when you're done with this job. And you're just going to let this drain. It's going to take a while depending on how hot the car is or how warm the temperature is outside. This could take a minute or it could take 5 minutes, but we'll just sit it out. And again, if you're taking your car to an automotive shop, time is money, so they may not wait for all the oil to drain out. But here in your own garage or out in your own driveway, you've got all the time in the world, right? So go ahead and let it drain until it really just comes down to a trickle or just a drip. And as you can see up there, the gasket from my last oil change is stuck to the oil pan itself. We'll go ahead and pop that off when it's done draining. So let's just wait here for a while. Alright, as you can see, the oil dripping out of this has come pretty much down to a halt. Now, in order to get that little filter off, you'll have to pry at that just like that. You could use a screwdriver. I just have my little wrench down here, so I figured let's just go ahead and use that. Right? So that's that. Now we have our drain plug here, and if you are going to be reusing your gasket, I'm going to go ahead and put that on. Trying to do this one-handed is kind of interesting. There we go. Right? And then we'll just, let me get my camera down here. Maybe we'll show how this works. Okay. So now we've got our gasket on. We're going to go ahead and reinsert the drain plug. Okay, once it's finger tight, get your 14 millimeter wrench out again. Go ahead and tighten that up. Okay, you don't want to make it terribly tight. Just tighten up, and then you can kind of clean the oil off of that. I do anyway. Great. So that's part one. Now let's go ahead and move the filter off of this thing, and the same process applies. We're going to let it drain until it's down to a drip, and then we'll put our new filter on. We'll be ready to fill this thing back up and call it a day. That didn't take too long, right? Now, sometimes if you got a filter that's on too tight, you may need to get an oil filter wrench. There's a variety of different styles. They all work basically the same. A lot of times you won't need that, so don't rush out and buy it. But if you can't get the filter off, that's what it's going to take, and they're $6 or $7. Okay, so back over here on the other side of the engine, I've moved my pan over to catch this because it's going to leak some. You might want to have a rag handy for this because you're probably going to get a little bit on you. See how it starts coming out there before the filter falls off? You can unscrew it a few turns and just let it drip for a few seconds, and that'll help you get it drained out some. Make less of a mess. And then I'm going to grab a rag here so I don't get it all over my hands. I'll go ahead and take the filter the rest of the way off. And you put the filter into the drain pan to let it drain, and as you can see, even more oil is coming out of here. Now, things you want to check that could really mess up your day as this drains, you'll see the mounting here. Put my finger up in there. That flange there. Boy, there you go. You want to make sure that the gasket from the old filter hasn't stuck to that, okay? So as long as you can see bare metal all the way around there, you're good to go. And the gasket is that rubber thing right there around the edge, okay? As I get oil all over my new filter. So the next thing we want to do is catch a little bit of oil on our fingertip, like so. And we just want to get that gasket a little bit wet with oil. Help it go on there easier. That's not such a big deal, is it? And if we look back up here, we're down to pretty much a drip. So we're ready to put that filter back on. And of course, doing this one-handed, not as easy as it seems. Or about as easy as you can imagine. I want to tighten that down. I'm not squeezing this thing like crazy. I'm just tightening it down. There it is. That's all you have to do, guys and gals. So now we crawl ourselves back out from underneath the car, put the right amount of oil back in it, run the engine for a few seconds, double check our level, make a sticker for the windshield, and we are done. All right. So now we're ready to fill this thing back up. And in my case, I'm going to use this funnel. So you go ahead and completely remove your oil cap at this point. Stick your funnel in your engine, grab your oil, and you want to go on the internet or go into your owner's manual and see how many quarts of oil this takes. In this case, it takes 3.9 quarts, which just happens to be exactly how much I have left out of this container since something poked a hole in it on the ride home and leaked a quart of it out. So I've got exactly 3.9 quarts. So we'll go ahead and fill it back up. If you're running conventional oil, 3,000 to 5,000 miles is probably the interval you should be looking at for your oil changes. If you're running synthetic oil, 5,000 to 7,500 miles, 5,000 to 7,500 miles is the range that I would go. I don't care what the advertising says. A 10 or 12,000 mile oil change is a great way to wear your engine out. No matter what the filter, no matter what type of oil, no matter what brand, it's unrealistic to think you're going to get 10 to 12,000 miles out of an oil change. Okay. For myself, I run this synthetic oil in it, and I change it every 5,000 miles. And, 210,000 miles, I must be doing something right. My truck, same situation. I use SuperTech synthetic oil in it. It has 310,000 miles on it, still the original motor. And it's also doing fine. So I would say 25 years in the business and those kind of results, I must be doing something right. Okay, so we've got 4 quarts of oil in it. We're going to let that drain for a few more seconds, and then we will put the cap on, lower this dipstick down. We're going to start the engine and run it for a bit. That's to circulate the oil, fill the filter back up, and then we are going to recheck our level, and that is it. The oil that we've drained out of this, we can take and use the same funnel and put it back into the container, and it's free. You take the oil in that container back to the parts store. About 90% of parts stores allow this, and you can recycle that oil for free, so you don't waste that or it doesn't end up in a landfill, okay, which is kind of nice. So we'll put the cap back on, lower that down, and we'll go start the car up. Now you want to give it maybe 15, 20 seconds just to let it sit. Let that oil drip down to the bottom of the pan. And really what you're doing here is you're just verifying that your oil capacity was correct. So, you know, if you know for a fact from the last oil change that 4 quarts is exactly what it takes to fill up, you could conceivably skip this step, but I recommend checking it. And of course, every 1,000 miles at most, you should pop the hood, check your fluids, check your belts, check things out like that, and check your oil, because most cars do burn a little oil, especially if they're running synthetic oils. They'll burn a little oil in between oil changes. That's not a problem, that's normal. Okay, so it's been enough time. We're going to go ahead and pull your dipstick out. You want to take a rag or a paper towel and clean the dipstick off completely. Then you're going to reinsert it into the hole. And then you're going to pull it back out and check the fluid level. Okay, I'm going to bring it close to the camera. Hopefully this will show up. Yeah, see how it's wet right there at the full mark? Oh boy, I wish I could get a better view of it, but I think that's about it. A little hard to see, but perfect. Stick that back in. Button your car up, close the hood, take a little piece of tape, write yourself a note when you did the oil change, how many miles from now it's going to be due again, and you've done it. You've just spent maybe 20 minutes, maybe 30 if things don't go very well. And you've saved yourself probably $10, $15, maybe a whole lot more than that, depending on the make and model. And you've done it yourself. So be proud of yourself. And enjoy the fact that now you know how to change your own oil.